Five Nights at Freddy's is a massive game that has one hell of a story that no one can agree on. Bro, before making this video, I looked at other timelines, and none of them had the same fucking story. There's always that one event that was not consistent with the other ones. Even with name dates like the Bite of 83 and the Bite of 87, the fucking bites were the only times people could agree on something because they had a fucking time. Even trusted sources that I'd watch are starting to get very dicey on their theories. Have y'all seen the Game Theory Ultimate Timeline video? That shit doesn't make any sense. I used to watch MatPat and Markiplier all the time, and post-editing Fair Square here, I also remembered I used to watch this guy Smite a lot. I don't know if anyone still watches his channel or if he even makes videos still, but he'd always make like top 10 facts he didn't know about whatever animatronics, so he was also another trusted source. But I don't know if he does Fnaf content still or not, so yeah. Mark isn't a timeline guy, he just plays the games, but MatPat is someone I used to trust. Alright, if Daddy Matty Patty, no fucking way I actually just said Daddy Matty Patty, said something, then it was lol. All FNAF games were a dream? Sure. Michael is the crying child and a robot? Makes sense to me. The fun times were created before the Bite of 83, removing any motive for William to want to create child-killing robots? Lottie fucking da, of course! Now he thinks that the nightmare animatronics are real. William's wife is trying to use Gregory, Glamrock, Freddy, Burntrap, and Vanessa to recreate for her family. Nah! I know I'm only picking on Game Theory, but there are a ton of other videos that do this kind of shit out there. They make outlandish claims that doesn't make any sense, so I'm here to set the record straight. This is my, fair square, 100% approved, certified FNAF timeline. And if you don't agree, fuck you. The FNAF timeline starts in the 70s when William Afton and Henry Emily start a small business called Fredbear's Family Diner, where they had two suits that looked like a bear and a rabbit. Things were going well for them. In 1983, they branched off, creating a second location called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where they created new animatronics based off of a bear, fox, rabbit, and chicken. The two would create a company called Fazbear Entertainment. At some point during 1983, Henry and William would create Springlock suits, a revolutionary change for the company. The Springlock suit would allow an animatronic to have the animatronic parts pushed aside so that the employee could wear the suit. One issue, though, every second you wear the Springlock suit, you're putting your life in danger. The spring locks are very fragile, and simple stuff like breathing, moving, and your heartbeat can loosen the spring locks. You have to be very fucking careful when wearing a suit, or else the spring locks will come loose and you will be crushed alive by all the animatronic bits. Due to this glaring red flag in its design, the spring lock suits were only to be used by Henry, William, and those trained by the phone guy via his training tapes that we hear in FNAF 3.
Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. These tapes will provide you with much-needed information on how to handle/climb into/climb out of mascot costumes.
Now by this time, William had himself a family. He had a wife, two sons, and a daughter. Henry also had a wife and a daughter of his own, but back to William's family. William's oldest son, Michael, enjoyed scaring his little brother, Evan. Evan was a real pussy, scared of everything, including the animatronics at his dad's restaurant. Now people tried to make a claim that Evan is scared of the animatronics because William is using sound discs to turn the Freddy animatronics into scary-looking monsters, but that's literally not the case. You see, the real reason why he's scared is because he's a fucking child. Children can be afraid of large robots without being attacked by them. I know when I was like 6 at Chuck E. Cheese, the guy in the mascot costume, when he came around, I would hide under the table. Now imagine an 8-foot tall robot walking around. No wonder this kid is scared shitless, because he's a kid. But for some reason, he has his birthday at Fredbear's, probably because his dad owns the place. But on his birthday, Michael and his friends thought it would be funny to put Evan near Fredbear against his wishes. They put Evan's head in Fredbear's mouth and trying to say that he wants a kiss, but Evan starts to cry. You see, it's not just breathing and your heartbeat, but the moisture is also another thing that can cause the spring locks to snap shut. So when the tears and Evan's movements meet Fredbear's mechanical jaw, the spring locks snap into position, which is the mouth closed, crushing Evan's head. Evan is rushed to the hospital, where he stays in a coma for a week, fighting off the animatronics that scared him for so long. But on the 6th night of his coma, the one that killed him, The one that torments him is Fredbear, running around his house, until finally, he died. Evan's death took its toll on William and made him turn cold towards his own family, with him yelling at his kids, going out to drink at juniors all the time, and to the point of being kicked out. Michael would often run away and visit Evan's grave, and William wouldn't like this because he just wanted to forget about the tragedy that was Evan. But Michael wouldn't, so he would use the Fredbear, or Spring Bonnie suit, it doesn't really matter which one he used, to scare Michael and keep him inside. But on rainy days, he couldn't since he would die from the spring locks, and those nights, he would punish Mike to make sure he would never visit the grave again. One rainy night, William, while outside of Freddy Fazbear's, saw Charlie, Henry's daughter, and he had an idea. Why shouldn't Henry know how it feels to have your child ripped away from you like he experienced? So he killed Charlie right outside of the Freddy location. But William left one thing out. Henry had built an animatronic specifically to watch out for Charlie while he was working, the security puppet. The security puppet was stuck inside its box because a couple of bullies locked Charlie out of Freddy's and placed a box on top of the security puppet. But once it got out, it went outside looking for Charlie, only to find her corpse dead behind the Freddy's. With nothing left to do with it being destroyed by the rain, the security puppet laid beside her. Charlie's spirit, though, ends up possessing the puppet and would live through it. William had a taste for killing, and something about it just gave him a special feeling, something he hadn't felt since he created his kids with his wife. He would end up creating his own business separate from Freddy Fazbear's called Afton Robotics. There he would create his own animatronics, being Baby, Ballora, Biddy Babs, and Mini Renas, and other animatronics that Enter's mask was taken from, or it could have just been something that doesn't matter. William made these animatronics to lure and capture kids, and placed them in a new restaurant called Circus Baby's Pizza World. Now he knew how dangerous they were, since, he made them, so he warned his own kids never go near these animatronics. But his daughter Elizabeth didn't listen. She wanted to see the animatronic Baby. But unfortunately for her, Baby keeps track of the kids in her room, and once there's only one, she enters into a specific protocol, and unfortunately she was alone in the room with Elizabeth. Baby would start to dispense ice cream, and Elizabeth got closer until she was close enough, and then Baby's blue eyes would turn green as Elizabeth died inside, possessing the animatronic. William would shut down Circus Baby's Pizza World on day one, claiming it was due to gas leaks. With 2 kids down, William's wife would be just as broken as him and wanted to leave, but William wouldn't let her. Instead, he killed her, but her wandering spirit would find its way into Ballora, as evident by her song.
Why do you hide inside your walls when there is music in my halls? All I see is an empty room, no more joy, an empty tomb.
Her song and Ultimate Custom Night lines. With all these possessed animatronics and nowhere to go, William placed them underground in a warehouse he had built just under his house, shortly after Evan's death. Sometime after this fiasco, Fredbear's would have 2 employees wearing the Spring Bonnie's Fredbear costume get crushed to death by the spring locks, so the company finally deemed them too dangerous and put an end to the suits, using full animatronic suits. The spring lock suits would be placed in a safe room, which was then boarded up and invisible to both cameras and animatronics. It was mostly just a storage room. The 2 employees that were killed ended up becoming Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, unable to fully possess the suits since their bodies were removed from them. This event would end up closing Fredbear's, knowing no one gave a shit about it. The Springlock suits were then moved from the now closed Fredbear's to the Freddy Fazbear location for parts or something. In 1985, William still had the need to kill, but didn't know how to do it without getting caught. Then he knew what he had to do. William put on the Spring Bonnie outfit and took the 5 kids into the safe room. It was the only room with no cameras. He would then kill them one by one, hiding their bodies in the animatronic suits, stuffing Susie and the Chica animatronic first. Then, in no particular order, Gabriel went into Freddy, Jeremy into Bonnie, Fritz went into Foxy, and Cassidy went into the Fredbear suit. It was the only one left after all. Henry noticed the spring Bonnie suit was moved around and was curious about it, but didn't think of much of it, but instead made sure everyone knew not to touch the suits since they were dangerous. A year later, in 1986, Freddy's would be closed due to the child corpse smelling coming from the animatronics and also blood found on the suits. Would the police not check the animatronic suits for bodies or whatever when they found blood on them? They just let that slide or something? Fazbear Entertainment would open a new restaurant, but this time kicked out William because while no evidence was found towards William killing all the kids, Henry had his suspicions. He did it. And to make sure William stayed away, he made new animatronics that had facial recognition, so if they saw William, they would probably attack him or alert the authorities in some way. But William gets in anyway. He comes up with a fake name. While it's not known, I'm going to go ahead and assume it was the same fake name he used in the books, being Dave Miller. He had become a security guard, and just out of spite, he killed 5 more kids in this new restaurant. But when this happened, he realized something. The animatronics were alive. Not the toys, it was the old ones that had the bodies put in them. They were brought to the new location just for parts. They were same suits that were being possessed by William's old victims. This shows William that people could possess robots. William left his position, and Jeremy Fitzgerald comes in, for some reason, being on with constantly being in danger all week, and is told to work for one last party before the new restaurant closes. Jeremy works the birthday party and is told to stay near the animatronics to make sure everything runs smoothly. But then, the animatronic Mangle, a destroyed robot that was torn apart by kids, attacks Jeremy, ripping out his frontal lobe.
It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know?
That night, Fritz Smith, aka Michael Afton, works at the Freddy's location, trying to find his dad, but he wasn't there, so he survives the night and moves on. The Freddy's restaurant is once again closed, and Fazbear Entertainment goes dark. Until Henry makes one last attempt. One more chance to bring fantasy and fun to life. One more chance to... and the restaurant failed again. Henry moved the old animatronics to an older location, scrapped the toys, seeing them as dangerous. But less than a year after opening, the restaurant closes due to the company no longer being trusted after about 11 kids were killed. Phone Guy was supposed to work the final nights to make sure no one breaks in or anything and messes with the animatronics, but the animatronics end up killing him anyway, and they look for a new security guard, and Mike Schmidt signs up. Mike Schmidt was actually Michael Afton, still looking for his father. The kids that were possessing the animatronics thought Michael was William, so they would move around to try to kill him, but Michael would be fired for tampering with the animatronics. It wasn't Michael that did it though, it was William. William stole parts of the animatronics, trying to build new animatronics called Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy. After Michael is fired, William would come in and take apart the 4 main animatronics and take the endoskeletons and melt them. He would then inject the melted endoskeletons into the Funtimes. The melted, possessed endoskeleton created a liquid called remnant. William at this time realized that the kids were still technically living, but he didn't know why. He soon realized that their souls melded into the metal endoskeleton, which allowed them to keep living, giving the kids pseudo-immortality. So William started wanting to achieve immortality, and Remnant would be the way to do this. The Remnant was the 4 kids, and I believe Golden Freddy too, being put into the Funtime animatronics, and it caused the Funtimes to gain sentience, but the Remnant was no longer the kids. They had lost all memories, and they were in constant pain, like they were being ripped apart and forced back together as one. But then William learned that's exactly what happened. He tore the spirits in half. The spirits still lived on inside the metal too, and when he went back to the Freddy Fazbear's location, the spirits chased him down, trapping him in the safe room, where in a moment of desperation, William put on the spring Bonnie suit to hide from the kids. But my man did not notice the shitty ceiling, and the water got into the suit, and then... Henry would find William's body in the safe room and decide to board it up, locking him in there forever. It was circa 1995. William was dead, Fazbear Entertainment was basically dead, and Cotton Eye Joe had just come out. But Michael was still looking for his father, which led him to his old childhood house. But what he found there was William's old warehouse. He went down and found that Afton Robotics was still up and running without him, and people were still taking care of the animatronics down there. So Michael took a job as a technician, and he would go to Circus Baby and Rentals to explore his father's work. But during his week there, the animatronic Baby would talk to him. Baby treated Michael like an ally and would help him out during his week, so he trusted her. But then, on his 5th night of working, Michael found out that 2 other technicians had died on Funtime Foxy and Ballora stages. Baby led Michael through Funtime Gallery, where she revealed that all the other animatronics had combined themselves into one being called Ennard. They wanted to leave this hell and escape to the real world, but as the Terminator showed us, robots cannot wander around the real world. So they trapped Michael in a room called the Scooping Room, where a large metal claw ripped out Michael's insides so that Ennard could wear Michael as a skin suit. Unfortunately, human skin rots and decays after death, so shortly after, Ennard abandons Michael's body, which is basically turned rotted and purple. But due to the remnant that was injected into him from the scooper, his soul was trapped inside his dead body, so he couldn't die. He was still alive, so he made one promise.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
I hope you die in a fire. Hope you'll be stabbed in the heart. Hope you'll get shot in the eye.
Everything has been radio silent for 30 years. Nothing from William, nothing from Henry, nothing from Michael. Everything was over and done with, until a new attraction opened up, Fazbear Frights. Not a restaurant, but instead a horror attraction, based around the Fazbear name. And it isn't run by Fazbear Entertainment at all. Michael, who, yes, is still alive at this point, signs up to be the night guard, thinking maybe his father could be there. The first night comes and goes, and surprisingly nothing happens. But then the second night, thanks to Phone Dude, helpful warning,
We found one. A real one.
the safe room from the original location was unsealed, and William, now known as Springtrap, was free again. He was roaming around Fazbear Frights, but this free roam time is short because Michael ends up setting the place ablaze, hoping to kill his father, but it doesn't work, and Springtrap decides to go on a leisurely walk. Now, it's unknown when Pizzeria Simulator takes place, but I'm assuming it takes place in like 2026, around that, because fuck you, that's why. Henry comes back deciding to put arrests to all of Fazbear Entertainment. He starts up one last Freddy Fazbear Pizza location, letting Michael take control of it. After a week, Michael collected Molten Freddy, aka Ennard, aka Baby, or Ballora, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Scrap Baby, aka Baby, and Scrap Trap, aka Springtrap, aka William Afton, aka the man behind the slaughter. Michael collects all these guys after they were lured in by a Fazbear establishment. But there is a new face Lefty. But it's not really a new face, because Lefty is just a puppet. He was a clone of Freddy that Henry designed to trap the puppet, knowing that it wouldn't want to return to a Fazbear establishment. 1 week after Freddy's opening, Baby tells Michael, "Ooh yeah, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you real good." Before Henry reveals himself and is like, "Ooh yeah, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you real good." And he actually does it. Henry burns the place down, killing all the animatronics and letting their souls out and rest. He even kills Michael, saying he assumes he wants this. Like, bitch, the fuck you mean I wanted this? Fuck that, I wanna live. I wanna live! Henry then kills himself, allowing the awful story of Freddy Fazbear's to come to an end.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
But one more thing. William ends up going to hell, surprise surprise, and Cassidy, the kid that possesses Golden Freddy, holds him there and the other spirits in place, tormenting William with the other animatronics he made, but also forcing the other spirits to hunt William against their will. And that's the end, or at least it should be. This is the end of the Scott universe, as I like to call it, since the Steel Wool Studios took over the production of the Fnaf games and is making their own story. At the time of this writing / recording / editing, the Fnaf Security Breach Ruin DLC hasn't been released yet. Once that's out, and I play through it, I'll write a Steel Wool universe timeline. But for now, this is it. Hey, fun fact, this script used more words than any essay I've ever written for school. Hey, so quickly, I wanted to add this section just to talk about large leaps that I made in this timeline after all I did complain about how I hated YouTubers making illogical leaps with no explanation. So let me begin. One of the biggest holes in my timeline is where the placement of sister location is. I've seen a lot of people say this happens in the 80s, but that just doesn't seem to be the case, because Funtime Freddy and Foxy are definitely possessed by the 5 kids, so it has to take place after FNAF 1. And William is most definitely dead during this point, because just something about the vibe seems like it's post-Springtrap or whatever. Also, I say they weren't made with the original circus animatronics being Funtime Freddy and Funtime Foxy, because since William made After Robotics, a separate company from Fazbear Entertainment, I wouldn't imagine he could use Freddy characters in this new place, since it's a separate LLC. But I could be wrong. I'm only a high school student, I'm not a law major, so it doesn't really matter when they're made. That's just how I place them. All you gotta know is that 5 kids are in them, just like EDP wanted them to be in him. Something else is FNAF 4 Nightmare animatronics being real, when that's just wrong. They're called nightmares for a reason. People have said that they were originally real, but were retconned, or originally not real, but were retconned into being real, which is not true. People like to use the security logbook as evidence, since it has Nightmare Fredbear drawn somewhere in it, but like Scott said, not everything in the books are meant to be taken at face value. They're just meant to fill in some holes that were left in the games. I feel like this is just people reading too far into something that was in the book. Just like how people thought FNAF 4 took place after FNAF 1, just because you can hear the phone call from the night one sometimes as an Easter egg. If you think there are any other plot holes, please leave a comment and I'll talk about it. I love discussing this shit, and yeah, that's it.